Ever wish your word was as good as gold? Like people could totally rely on you, no question, and you could always trust yourself to actually reach your goals. Well, that's what we're going to explore today, reliability.
It's a surprisingly deep topic, right?
Deeper than I thought, and we've got this awesome article called How to Become More Reliable and Build Trust in Yourself and Others.
And it's not just like quick tips and tricks.
No, 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 this gets into the why.
Exactly. Like, why does reliability even matter on a personal level?
Yeah, and how do even small things you do?
That affect your whole life. It's wild.
Okay, so let me see if I've got this straight. This article, it starts by like questioning whether good intentions are actually enough. I mean, we've all been there, right?
Oh, totally. You want to do something, you plan to do it, but then...
Life happens.
Exactly. So the article, it makes this important distinction between like what you intend to do and what you actually do.
Right, because it's the follow-through that really builds trust, right?
With yourself and other people.
Makes sense. I mean, think about it. If someone's always bailing or forgetting stuff, are you really going to trust them with like important things?
Probably not. There's even research on this. People who follow through on what they say they'll do, they tend to have higher self-esteem and are seen as more confident by others.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about feeling good about yourself, it's about how people see you. But what about like those tiny promises? I was surprised the article talked about that.
Yeah, like those everyday things that you might not even think about.
Right, like, oh, I'll put that away later, or I'll send you that email.
The example in the article was something as simple as putting something away when you said you would. It seems small.
But it shows you keep your word, even for the little things.
Exactly. It's a micro demonstration of, like, your character.
You know what? I used to work with this guy, and he was always, always so meticulous.
About what?
Everything, even the smallest tasks. You knew that if he said he'd do something.
You do it.
Exactly. It wasn't showy or anything, but I really respected that. Like, total reliability.
It's those small things that add up over time. They build trust, and trust leads to respect. But there's this other cool idea the article brings up.
Oh, yeah.
Self-respect.
Whoa. Okay, so like, if I can't even trust myself to do what I said I'd do.
How can you expect anyone else to trust you?
Right. It all starts with yourself. That makes a lot of sense.
If you're always letting yourself down, it can really knock your confidence.
And then it's even harder to achieve your goals.
It becomes this, like, self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Okay, I'm convinced. Reliability matters. But how do we get better at it? What are some practical things we can do?
Well, the article says it starts with being really thoughtful about what you commit to in the first place.
Like, think before you speak.
Totally. You know, instead of just automatically saying, yeah, sure, I can do that to every request.
You should actually pause and consider, like, can I realistically fit this in?
Exactly. It's not about being a yes person. It's about understanding that your word has weight.
I feel like I need to be more careful about that.
And by thinking it through, you can avoid a lot of stress and potential disappointments later on.
That's so true. So I'm guessing planning is important here. Is that where those to-do lists come in?
Totally. Having a system, whatever works for you, is super important.
Like a calendar, reminders on your phone,
Or even one of those fancy productivity systems if you're into that. The point is to have something that helps you visualize and manage your commitments.
You know, I'm pretty old school. I still love a good to-do list.
Whatever works for you, there's just something so satisfying about crossing things off.
Oh, yeah, totally. But what about when, even if you plan everything perfectly, life just happens? Like, we can't control everything, right?
That's where things get really interesting. The article actually brings up this idea from Stoic philosophy.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm not super familiar with that.
It's called fate permitting. It basically acknowledges that we can only control our actions, not the outcome.
Oh, that makes sense. So you can, like, do your absolute best to follow through.
But also accept that sometimes things are just out of your hands.
It's about balance, right? Taking responsibility, but also being realistic.
I think so. So, like, imagine you promise to meet a friend for coffee, but then your car breaks down. You can't control the car breaking down, but you can control what you do next.
Like, instead of just not showing up, you call your friend and explain what happened.
Exactly. It's about respecting their time and understanding. And speaking of being prepared, there's another point the article makes that I think is important.
What's that?
It's about checking your resources before you commit to something.
Oh, man, I've messed that up so many times.
Like that time I said I'd make dinner for a friend.
And you forgot to buy an ingredient.
Exactly. The article uses the example of promising to make a fancy meal and then realizing, oh, wait, I don't even have the right pan for this.
That's happened to me, too. It's such a simple thing, but so important. Double check that you have everything you need before you say yes.
It's all about setting yourself up for success.
Okay, so we've talked about intentions versus action, the power of small promises, the importance of planning and resource checks, and even a bit of Stoic philosophy. But how does it all fit together?
Well, the article argues that reliability isn't just about being organized or punctual. It's something way deeper.
Like what?
It's about trust, respect.
Oh, and integrity.
Exactly. It's woven into who you are as a person.
This is making me think about how all of this affects our relationships.
It's huge. We'll get into that next time.
Yeah, it's like we're talking about something bigger than just, remembering to buy milk or whatever.
Way bigger. It's about how reliability shapes your relationships with everyone. When you're the kind of person who follows through, people learn they can actually depend on you.
Right. It's like that feeling of knowing someone has your back. And then you feel more comfortable being open with them, sharing things because,
You
yeah.
trust that they'll be there for you.
Yeah, no matter what. That makes total sense.
It's fundamental for any strong relationship. Family, friends, coworkers.
Everyone. And this dependability, it leads to deeper connections and more respect, right?
Absolutely. But remember, the article also talked about how reliability affects you.
Oh, right. Back to that self-trust thing. Keeping the promises we make to ourselves. That's the tough one.
It can be, but when you actually follow through on those personal commitments, even the small ones.
You build confidence.
Exactly. And self-worth, too. You start believing in yourself that you can achieve your goals.
It's like you're proving something to yourself. Hey, I did it. I said I would, and I did.
Love that. And that feeling of accomplishment, it's incredibly powerful. Because then you trust yourself more, so you achieve more, and the cycle keeps going.
It's like a positive feedback loop.
Totally.
Okay, so we're not just talking about being a good friend or reliable coworkers. We're talking about something deeper.
Integrity. Self-respect. It's part of who you are.
This is fascinating. Really makes you think. But what about like the less obvious benefits, the things that maybe people don't even realize they're getting from being more reliable?
That's a good question. One thing that comes to mind is like less stress and anxiety.
Oh, for sure.
When you're reliable, you're not always scrambling to catch up or worrying about letting people down. You have a sense of control over your life,
Yeah, less chaos. It's freeing. I know when I feel on top of things, I'm definitely more relaxed.
right? Another cool benefit could be like more opportunities coming your way.
Oh, how so?
Well, when people see that you're reliable, they're more likely to trust you with more responsibility.
At work, maybe like a new project
Or leading a team, sure. Or even just being that person everyone knows they can count on for anything.
I see. So it's not just about avoiding bad outcomes. It's about creating good ones. Doors open.
Exactly. And there's this ripple effect, too. You being reliable, it sets a good example for others.
Like your kids or friends or
Anyone around you, they see how you operate, and it might inspire them to become more reliable, too.
so we're not just improving ourselves, we're making the world a little more reliable.
A chain reaction of good stuff. I love that. And it ties back to that self-respect thing. The more reliable you are, the more respect you gain, not just from others, but from yourself. And that can lead to more confidence, resilience.
A more positive outlook on life in general. Wow, okay. Reliability is kind of like a superpower.
Right. But, got to be careful. There could be downsides, too, if you're not careful.
Oh, like what?
Well, there's a balance to everything. If you're so focused on being reliable that you become rigid or inflexible,
That's not good. Life throws curveballs.
exactly. We have to be able to adapt, right? Sometimes it's okay to say no, to switch things up, to admit you made a mistake and need to adjust.
It's being human.
Exactly. So it's finding that sweet spot between dependability and flexibility. And remembering, like we talked about fate permitting, we do our best, but sometimes things happen that we can't control.
And that's okay.
It is. The important thing is to handle those situations with grace and good communication.
This has been so insightful, really opened my eyes to all the layers of what it means to be reliable.
Me too.
But there's one question that's been stuck in my head since reading this article. What about situations where trust has already been broken? Can reliability help to fix that?
Now that is a question worthy of its own deep dive, and one we should definitely get into.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that, but I think we're out of time for today.
I know, I wish we had more time to unpack that one.
But it's a great question for everyone listening to think about.
For sure, as they continue on their journey of becoming more reliable.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure to come back to this topic in a future episode, but for now, we'll leave you with that thought-provoking question. Can reliability be a tool for healing broken trust?
It's something to consider as you work on your own relationships and on becoming the most reliable version of yourself.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
Keep up.
Okay, so where were we? Yes. Broken trust. Can reliability actually help to mend those fences?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's a really complex issue. But I think it is possible, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like we've been saying, actions speak louder than words, right? So if you can show someone through your actions that you've changed.
That you're serious about being different.
Yeah, exactly. That you're someone they can count on now.
It could be a powerful way to start rebuilding that trust. But, and this is a big but,
Oh, I know this one. Trust is fragile. Like super fragile, especially once it's been broken.
once that bond is shattered, it's not easy to put the pieces back together.
So where do you even begin? Can it ever be like fully repaired?
That's the million-dollar question. I don't know if there's a simple answer. It depends.
On what?
A lot of things, like how badly was the trust broken?
Right, some things are harder to forgive than others.
Exactly. And are both people actually willing to put in the effort to rebuild it?
Yeah, because it's going to take work from both sides.
Definitely. And it's going to take time. It's a long game, not a quick fix. It needs vulnerability, honesty, a commitment to working through the hard stuff.
And probably a whole lot of forgiveness and empathy, too.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But, if we think back to everything we've been talking about today,
All this stuff about reliability.
it seems like it could actually play a key role in that rebuilding process. It's like laying a new foundation.
Brick by brick.
Yes, every time you follow through on something big or small, it's like adding another brick to that foundation.
And slow but surely you're creating something stronger and more stable.
You're showing the other person that you're trying and that they can rely on you.
That makes a lot of sense. But, okay, what about the person who actually broke the trust? Like, they're the one who needs to demonstrate the reliability, right?
100%. But what's interesting? It's not just about being reliable towards the person they hurt.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. It's about being reliable to themselves, too.
Right, back to that self-trust.
It all comes back to that, doesn't it?
If you can't even keep the promises you make to yourself, how can you expect anyone else to believe you'll keep the promises you make to them?
Makes you think. So it's like restoring integrity both inside and out.
Exactly. And when you make that internal shift, that commitment to being reliable to yourself,
It starts to show on the outside, too. People can see it.
yeah, it becomes this kind of signal like, hey, I messed up, but I'm taking responsibility. I'm doing the work to be someone you can trust again.
This is such a fascinating topic. It's amazing how something that seems so basic, like just being reliable, can have such a huge impact on our lives.
Right. It affects our relationships, our sense of self, even our ability to heal from past mistakes. It's powerful stuff.
It really is. It's like this hidden superpower we all have. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about the power of small promises, the importance of planning and resource checks, even a bit of Stoic philosophy. Who knew reliability was so complex?
Haha, right. But it's been a great conversation.
Definitely. I'm walking away with a lot to think about.
Me too.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will remember?
That's a good one. I think the biggest takeaway is this. Reliability, it's more than just a skill or a habit you can check off a list.
It's deeper than that.
Much deeper. It's about showing up for yourself and the people in your life consistently. It's about integrity. And yeah, the journey might be challenging at times, but it's worth it. Because when you become more reliable, you build stronger relationships, you trust yourself more, and you just feel better overall.
And who knows, maybe you can even heal some of those broken bridges along the way.
Maybe so.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap things up.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
It was great chatting with you, and to everyone listening, until next time, keep diving deep. 8/20/45.